for millions of people all over the world. Rail travel seems to conjure up a sense of adventure and excitement. Well, today we're going to turn the clock back to the 1940s to take a very special rail trip to the historic Tasmanian Midlands town of Ross. And I have the very enviable job of being one of the tour escorts for the day. And the day starts early in preparation for the inaugural tour to Ross by two vintage rail cars, not seen on local railways for almost 30 years. For enthusiast Lester Jones, the train's departure will mark the culmination of a 4-year dream to restore the vehicles for a return to passenger services, albeit enthusiasts and tourists rather than daily commuters. As the time for departure approaches, the scene at the Tasmanian Transport Museum resembles that long remembered as a daily ritual when transport took a more leisurely pace. Operated by Classic Rail Tours, the inaugural tour attracted people from all walks of life, all keen to sample rail travel as it used to be.
There's a train a-comin', there's a train a-comin', hear them tracks a-hummin', there's a train a-comin', can't you hear it blowin', can't you hear it blowin', wonder where she's going, can't you hear it blowin', run down to the station, run down to the station, dread and fascination, run down to the station.
Painted in bright contrasting livery representing their previous roles, two vintage rail cars made their way along the banks of the Derwent River on the outskirts of Hobart before turning north towards Ross.
Don't you want to ride her? Don't you want to ride her? Wonder what's inside her? Don't you want to ride her? She ain't bound for nowhere. She ain't bound for nowhere. Engineers just don't.
So what is it that attracts people to train travel?
Train travel is a lot less stressful. It is a lot more friendly because you get to talk to other people, and it's a lot more picturesque because you can concentrate on the scenery rather than on the road.
And do you enjoy that little extra sense of adventure?
I guess. I don't think the adventure is so important as it is the enjoyment of having something that's different, because it's not something you do every day.
An hour and a half into the journey, it's time for morning tea and a chance to test my hospitality skills. My fellow tour escort Doug Edwards.
Gee, I hope you got the count right. We're getting a bit low, aren't we?
At this point, the train began the long climb towards the highest point of the journey, the Rindaston Tunnel. For Tasrail driver Mick Brennan, who's been specially trained to drive the veteran vehicles, the experience is a welcome break from handling heavy-haul freight trains. And ahead of schedule, the train pulls into Ross, now missing its original station and platform. A problem well solved by local business people keen to provide a practical alternative. For some, the visit commenced with a horse and cart ride, and for others, a gentle stroll into town. Well, after 3 very pleasant and relaxing hours, we've arrived at the historic village of Ross. It's in the very heartland of Tasmania's fine wool-growing district, about halfway between Hobart and Launceston. And although the weather has proved a little bit inclement today, it certainly hasn't dampened the spirits of the townspeople who've really turned it on for our visit. The 2-hour stopover provides visitors with a chance to learn the history of the area, which has at its centrepiece the famous convict-built bridge with its superb sandstone carvings. Ross Township is centred in one of the world's finest wool-growing areas. The industry is well depicted at the Ross Wool Centre. A visit here is well worthwhile, and of course, there's always the opportunity to purchase a wide range of woolen clothing and souvenirs. Guides from the Wool Centre also take walking tours to the site of the original women's prison or female factory. But despite all the activities on offer, some passengers preferred to just stroll around this well-preserved township, literally soaking up the atmosphere of times past and present, and enjoying the nostalgia of it all. But all too soon it was time to head back for the return journey to Hobart. and the realities of life in the city. All that was left was to reflect on what had been a fascinating journey back in